Hi, come on in. Try to re-record and see. So we are gonna do lab 6 today. We are gonna make our Linux virtual machine. We'll start with part B. We don't have to do part A. We already have VirtualBox installed. So go ahead and download your lab document. Save it so that way you can add your answers to it. We'll start in a couple minutes. So at the end of this lab, if you want to back up your virtual machine, you can, I'll show you how you can clone your VM to an external hard drive. Unfortunately, it's not gonna fit on your regular flash drive because even if you have 256 gig drive, right? Just flash technology doesn't do well with writing the virtual machine files or your VDI, your disk file. So I will show you how you can clone your virtual machine, and you can keep cloning your virtual machine until you have enough virtual machine to use. So I'll show you how you can do that. So in the future, if you need reference for that, you can use it. So after this class, you should be able to state on your resume that you're able to create virtual machines. And you are going to use Ubuntu Linux, which is a Debian family Linux operating system. Okay. So as we look at our lab, I'll go ahead and start a minute early, I guess. We are going to start with part B. So when you download the lab, let me go in here. You can find your lab document there. Let me make sure I link it, embed it. Sorry, I have to do this earlier. Okay, so here is the lab. The first thing that we need to do once you're logged onto your computer is we are going to look at our lab instruction, and then you can press the control key and click on the link. It's going to take you to Ubuntu website. And then we can just click this. So on Ubuntu, you will find different versions of their operating system. This is free. If you are taking CIS-25 in the future, you will have to use Linux virtual machine. Usually the faculty would make you use it in the lab environment, or you have to make your own to test. So VMs are basically, they're very popular and they're commonly used in the industry for testing. Some of you have already used CLI in another class that has all the tools. So Ubuntu is just a different version of it. Think of it like a different flavor of Linux. And the desktop looks slightly different, but is Debian family. And on the website, you can also find the server version, the IoT versions, and the cloud version. I know in this week, the lecture covers cloud, so I want to share with you some information. So let's say that you are going to work on cloud one day, and most likely the company, if they're using virtual machine with AWS, you will see EC2. So this allows us to create instance or virtual machine on the cloud server. I did a couple of labs with different classes using this, and you can also use your free account. It gives you like, I think 100 of their credit dollars to be able to use it, and you can also test your virtual machine this way. So a lot of the servers that are running out of the AWS or Azure is virtual machine based. So this is the Microsoft version. So you can rent it. You can also pay for the space and then create your own in Windows, Linux, and so on. And we would use this to test software, or even, you know, before we deploy application, we can implement the virtual machine for that. So it's definitely very useful across all platforms, all different type of systems. So back to our lab, after you visit the website here, you're gonna scroll down and you're gonna find the Ubuntu LTS version. You're gonna click download. So the difference between this one and this one, right? The LTS. So LTS is really made for your lighter system like PC and laptops, but you can also use the more fuller version by using the 23.04. There's some slight feature that's a little different between, but ultimately everything else is the same. So click download. And I would suggest putting it in on your downloads folder, because if you try to save it on your USB, it's not going to fit. Right? Even though, like I said before, your USB might be spacious, but we should just, you know, it's always going to be on their website, the latest version, so you don't really need it. If you need it, just go and download it. It takes a few minutes. So once we click download, your files is going to be here. It should say Ubuntu, the version number, and then ISO. Okay, so I'll do that with you since. And then we can just go ahead and point it to downloads and click save. So once we have the ISO, remember that before you install any virtual machine, have the ISO. So if I want to make the Windows virtual machine, I need to go find Windows ISO, right? Like some of you, I created the virtual machine for you. So from this point on, you should be able to make your own ISO. It just different operating system have different system requirement. So coming back here, let me go back to the last page so I can show you. So here it tells you everything that you need. Since this is CIS-25, we want to take a look at this. You need a processor that's at least dual core or better. Okay, so when you make your virtual machine, make sure you look at the system requirements so your virtual machine is not really, really slow. So we need to, so our processor is going to meet that, and then you can also give it multiple core, and I'll show you how you can do that. We need to give it 4 GB of RAM, and then our drive needs to be 25. So this is the hard drive or the storage drive space. 25 is the minimal. So when you start throwing application on top of this, it's going to tell you it has no space. Okay, so we want to give it a little bit more. So I normally go double or triple this just to make sure that we have scalability in the long run. All right, so we saw that. Then next, what we're going to do is we are going to open up our VirtualBox. So you can type in virtual on your search bar, on your Windows search bar, and then open that up. I already have one running, but I'm going to make one with you right now.
Oracle VirtualBox?
Yeah, Oracle VirtualBox.
I want to download it.
How, for what?
Download
ISO?
yeah, it would take like 20 minutes.
Is it? It shouldn't. It says 20 minutes?
Yeah.
It's always 6 o'clock when it's like slowing down. Yeah, that's fine. Sometimes it's not real time. If not, let me see. So that one. You can also try an older version, which I did, right? The older link that I have in there. So if you want an older version, 20 is okay. So anything from 20 and up is okay. The newer one, normally they patches some of the security issues. So, and it added additional feature. So if you want to find like a, you know, like a 2004 or a 2104, you can, they archive all of that. So you can also Google that and find it.
So that that's still like the.
Yeah, it's still the same.
Okay.
Most of the stuff is gonna be the same.
The admin VirtualBox asking for email and password.
I'll click cancel. So okay. Everybody okay? While it's downloading, I know it might take a little bit of time. I can also, I think they removed my privilege to share file, but I will try to do that if that's the case. The file is kind of large. Okay, so we already talked about how we need the ISO. You can also find another version if you want. Stable wise 16 and later is ideal. 20 and later I would recommend. Okay, so once we have the ISO, we open up our VirtualBox and it's gonna look like this. You're gonna click new, which is the blue star. And then you're gonna give it a name. So I normally try to make the name meaningful so that way it's easier for me to file because you might have like, I don't know, in my case, 20 virtual boxes. So I have you type in Ubuntu VM like this, right? Or if you want, you can put your name and then Ubuntu VM or the version. Hello. So once we give it a name, we're gonna click the second drop down, the second option here. We're gonna click here and then we're going to choose other. So right now, we just finished step 4.
Because you currently don't have permission to access this.
Yeah, just click the X. So when I see this, you just click the X to close. So here they stop you from using their VM folder. That's okay. We can make our own. And then you're gonna point to desktop. And then you're gonna make a new folder. So I'm just gonna put Ubuntu VM and then maybe my initial, so I know that's mine. Whatever that you want to call that folder. So click new folder and then create a folder for your virtual machine. So whenever that you access your virtual machine, it's gonna go here. Now by default on here, I mentioned that if you don't select another folder, it's gonna throw it into your user account under VirtualBox VMs. But since TSS here, they disable the permission for it, so you can't save to it. So we have to save it out on our desktop. Understand? So that's why we have to make our own folder on our desktop. Now, I mentioned here that when you're done, after you shut down your virtual machine, we can clone it, and I'll show you how you can clone it. It only takes like about 5-7 minutes. We can take our folder, copy it, or we can have it cloned to another folder. Okay? Any question?
You'll still be able to save even though it's down.
Yeah, so that's the file that's downloading is the installation file.
Oh,
The folder that we create is where our virtual machine is gonna live. Yeah. So once we made a folder, we're gonna select that folder. Okay. And I'm gonna preview this step because I know some of you are still downloading the ISO. But once your ISO is downloaded, you're gonna click this drop down option and you're gonna click other. Right now, it's gonna show like CR download because it's incomplete, right? But once it's finished downloading, you're gonna see an ISO file in your downloads, and you can click that option. So if you want to install Windows, you would have an ISO for Windows 10 or 11, right? Like what I've had. If I want to install CLI, I can download the ISO from their website, or they already created VirtualBox for me. So I can download the ISO from the manufacturer website, right? The vendor website. So you're gonna select the ISO, and what's gonna happen is VirtualBox is gonna know what kind of OS you're trying to use, right? It's gonna automatically fill in here. But in the case it doesn't, it should also allow you to select, right, the option for the Ubuntu. At home, you should be able to. Here, they don't let you, so it's gonna select the option for you for the OS, okay? But most importantly, you want to click this box, skip unattended. So once you have the ISO, it's gonna let you check that box, okay? And then I'll wait with you. But what this does is, in the newer version of VirtualBox, they have it created with the user account and everything, so it's automated. But if you don't know what that password is, right, if you don't pay attention, you basically can't log into your virtual machine. So we want to make our own account and all of that. So we're going to check this option, okay? So we're going to browse for the third option. We're going to browse other, and then find our downloaded ISO. It has to be completely downloaded. Okay. And then we're going to check skip unattended installation. So what this does is it's going to take the ISO and it's going to mount it so that way it can install. Now, Ubuntu has several options. You can do a virtual machine. You can install it on your regular computer, right? Like if I build a computer, I can install it. But if you can download the ISO, but you have to unpack it. So this is a compressed version of the installation image. In order to install it on my regular PC that I just bought or built, I have to use Etcher software to unpack the file and copy everything onto a USB, okay? And that becomes a bootable. So anytime that you have an ISO, you can use Etcher software to unpack the ISO to a USB and make it an installation, the bootable installation USB. And then just stick the USB into your PC, turn it on, and then boot from it, okay? How's the downloading going so far? How long do you guys have left? 8 minutes? Okay. Some of you are close to 10. All right. Now you can also make live USB. So on the Ubuntu website, if you go and, they have a bunch of information on how you can find some tutorial for the open source. Let me see. So under download, you would see that they have a lot of different options for the download. If you want to use the server IoT, we talked about the cloud. You can also make a live USB. So I can run everything out of my USB, and it has to be about 8 gig or higher. So if you buy like a 16 gig USB, they can show you, it shows you how you can do that. So they have tutorial for you to be able to create live USB. That's really useful in the case that if you want to troubleshoot using your Ubuntu OS. So mine just notify me that I'm done. So let me go back. I'm going to mount the other one. Okay. So you notice that this is the 20 version and this is the 22. So I'm going to select the later version like you. I'm going to select that. Okay. All right. So once that's done, we're going to go to the next step. And so we did that here. And then we selected skip unattended. And then we're going to give it about 4 gig of RAM. So I'm going to preview that for some of you who are waiting, so that way you know, and we can wait for you too. So the next part is you're going to set up the RAM. Remember that the system requirement requires 4 gigabyte which means that it's 4,000 MB. To be exact, you can do 4096, not 40,000. I think I had a typo before, so. So if you want, you can just say 4,000, that's fine. If you want to add a little more, that's okay. Now, if you want your virtual machine to be faster, you can give it more core, right? We talked about core last week. Now, by default, it's only going to use one core in your processor. It's like a single processor, okay? So if you want, you can give it dual core. That's the minimum requirement. And if you want more, you can put more. So when do I need this? It really depends on how fast you want the machine to be, right? So you give it more resources, so it's going to be a little faster. Now, my host system, which is the Alienware system that I'm using, it has 16 core, right? The host machine is going to need at least 4 core. That's for the Microsoft OS. So you have a lot more room to play with. So how many virtual machines I can run concurrently? As many as my RAM can support. I need 4 gig for my Windows OS that I'm using for hosts. Then 4 gig for my Linux, right? So I can run maybe 2 or 3 of these to be able to fit under the 32 gigs, okay? So I'm just gonna use dual core here. I didn't note that on the instruction, but you can also use single core. Then go next. Now, important, right? Make sure that we give it 50 gig because the minimum requirement is 25 gig. So if you give it only 25, you can't install anything else on it. Okay. So make sure we give it 4,000 MB for RAM. If you want, you can up it to dual core. And it's okay if you don't do it at first. When you shut it down, before you boot it again, you can always change this. This is changeable, right? But it won't, you cannot change it when it's running. You have to shut it down and then change it. So in the future, if you want to give it more, just shut it down and then go to your general hardware settings, right? The little gear, and then change your RAM and your processor.
It doesn't allow you, or you gotta have the.
It doesn't allow you while it's running. Yeah, because the settings, it's gonna use that. Because remember, virtual machine is a state machine. It saves the state and the changes that you make to it. So while it's running, you cannot modify it. So you have to shut it down. When you load it, right? When you add it, that's when you change your settings. Okay. Are we okay with the download now? Any questions?
It's something that I lost.
So open up VirtualBox again and then find it. So type in virtual and then open up VirtualBox. Other questions?
Mine's counting down.
Just save it to your downloads.
And then press start.
Yeah, it's restoring what you had. So whatever that you had closed it accidentally.
I tried to take a screenshot to put it on this part here, right?
Yeah, so just press print screen.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then paste it to your document. Any other questions?
Did you save it on the down to the desktop? So it's back?
Doesn't matter, wherever you can find it. I'll make my way out. So, just follow the steps and then you and you can type a thing and then make a folder for it here on the desktop. Yeah, but the third part is to find the ISO, the third option. Yeah, and cancel. And then grab and put that policy. Oh, you already pressed that.
See, that's what I'm saying, it's right there.
Yeah. So, second option. Other. And then the third. So, type.
And then press here, and then next. Sorry, I'll put- and then two. And then next. During next. Like, what is it? I feel like that was. Yeah. And it's crazy because.
Now, the third is
That's where I'm stuck at right now.
Okay, we're good? Okay. So let's go back. Some of you are confused.
It's got my screenshot, it's not in the actual confusion. Open the screenshot.
Is this your screenshot?
Yeah.
This is your virtual machine.
Yes.
No, it's your virtual machine. Click on it. Oh, you had copied this?
Yeah.
And then you need to paste it over there on your document. Click somewhere and right click and paste. Okay, so there was a lot of confusion about what is what. Okay, again, name your virtual machine something that you can recognize. The second drop box here, the folder is where your virtual machine is gonna live. So we told it to be on the desktop, and I made a folder, right, for it. So that's where my virtual machine is gonna be. The third Dropbox here, ISO image, that's my install file. That's where you're gonna find your downloads and the ISO. Okay. If you put it on your on your desktop, then browse to it. If you put it on your downloads, then browse to it. But it's too large for your flash drive.
On the folder, we supposed to put a folder.
Yeah, the folders option, that's where you're gonna browse to the folder that you make for your machine. Okay. So we click other. And then desktop, we make a new folder, right? Type in the name and then select it. Then the third option is the ISO image, the install file that we downloaded. So click here, click other, and then desktop, or I'm sorry, downloads for me, and then the ISO that I downloaded. Okay. Because it's asking you this, what do you call it? Where is it gonna store, and how is it gonna be installed? Okay.
Thank you.
Then we're gonna click skip unattended installation, go next. Here is where we specify the RAM. Make sure that we do 4,000 meg, and then you can up the core, go next. On the next part, the third part is your disk. Give it 50 gigs, so type in 50. and everything's the same, go next. So it's gonna give you the summary, and then we're gonna finish. Okay, so once you have set up all the hardware part, you're gonna click start, and it's gonna begin the installation. So this is gonna pop up, right? Once I click start, it's gonna start it's gonna load, it's gonna boot my ISO file. And then I simply press enter to install. So if you see this, just make sure it's select install and then press enter. Now, in the case, if you want to do other things, you just use the arrow key to go to the other options, but not for today, right? And then it's gonna install, okay? If you don't select anything, it's gonna default and it's gonna do its thing there, okay? So this is gonna be the desktop option. Now, if you install the server version, the core doesn't have desktop, so it doesn't have the UI or user interface. So you have to select that option for the install.
How do I get back into that? Virtual machine? Because I got it.
It's right here. Yeah, it's there. That's it. Okay, so click that. Here. So click it. Yeah, so expand your screen on the way. Leave full screen. There you go. So this is a screenshot of that inside the machine. You want a screenshot on the outside. So click X out of that and then do your thing. Okay, we should be able to screenshot this time.
Yes, thank you.
Yep. All right, everybody okay with this? So once we click start and install, it's gonna go here. You're gonna make sure it's English, right? Don't be creative because we're not gonna be able to understand the other language. So click install. But you can choose the other if you wish, okay? As long as you know how to read it. Then choose US English, it's gonna default that, go continue. This part's really easy. We're gonna do a normal installation and we're gonna let it download updates. We can also force it to updates, I'll show you how. Click continue. And then this is gonna take like a few seconds and then it should be able to, it's gonna say erase this and install Ubuntu. Click install now. So it's gonna write everything new. And it tells you this. So it's gonna create, and this is important for this class, okay? It's gonna automatically create these sections. So it's like building a house. Right now we're building a house, right? We start with RAM, that's kind of like our foundation. And then we told it the processor, that's kind of like the roof. And then the disk, right? We put in some walls. But inside now, it's telling you that it's gonna build these rooms, okay? Partitions, think of them like room partitions. So Linux, for Debian Linux, it uses ext4. It's a type of file system that's used. It's kind of like, you know, you are, you have a certain characteristic about you, right? Like dark hair, you know, certain color hair, certain color eyes. So file system for the OS is like that. It is specific to the OS. So for most of the Linuxes, it's gonna use ext4 file system. That's like the type of, let's say brick or whatever that you would use to build the house, right? And then ESP. So once we're happy with this, we can click continue. But you can also use advanced feature right here to specify how you want those rooms to look for your home. Okay, we're gonna click continue and then proceed. So this part is gonna be like 10-15 minutes after we select the region. So make sure it's Los Angeles, right? If you see New York here, just click it and then select LA for Pacific time. And then click continue. And then here you can type in your name. I would suggest using lowercase. So in the future, if you type in command with your account, it's a lot easier because Linux is case sensitive. So we're gonna do your name and it's gonna fill out my machine name and then the username and then make a password. Make sure we remember the password. And then confirm. Now you can also select the other options to not require a password, but we'll use the password for security reasons. So keep it default here and then click continue. So this part is going to take about 10 minutes. It's going to copy the files and install, right? Once it's done, it's going to present you with the option for restart. You would click it and then log in once it's reboot with your account that you just made. Okay, really easy. Ubuntu is one of the easiest to install. Okay, so if you use Debian family like Raspberry Pi, Kali Linux, very similar to this, get the ISO, you can go through the same process. That's what we learned and be able to create multiple virtual machines. Okay, and the folder, okay, if you look, right, the folder that I created, it's gonna live here. Remember every time that when you guys use your virtual machine last time, you go and click the blue file, right? That basically I created the folder and that's where the Windows virtual machine lives. So you can copy it, you can move it, you can clone it, you can do a lot to it. You can have duplicates of it so that way you can test things. Okay, so I have two right now, right? One I created earlier with an older version and now the new one I just created while I'm doing this with you. Okay, so this process is pretty simple. It's gonna take a few minutes to do this. And then we'll do some command prompt after this or command line after this. Any question? Okay, so once we reboot and log in, when it's done in the next about few minutes, you're gonna see this. This is your desktop. Okay. I know that CompTIA A+, they do ask about other OSs, including Linux. Ubuntu is very common. So by design, a lot of the Linux releases are more appropriate in UI design, meaning that we start from left to right because that's how we read in English and top to bottom. So unlike Windows, you're gonna see a lot of your menu options on the top, like your power options, and then your files and your navigation icons are on the top. So anytime that you need applications, you just click the all apps or show apps here with the dots and the apps pop up. Everything is searchable. So what we're gonna use today is Terminal. You just search for it and you'll be able to get the app. Okay, but the cool thing about Terminal is you can open as many tabs as you want. So if I'm running on one, I can add another tab and it just make another, see? It has two and then so on. But I'm logged in at this account at this machine. So the path is about the same as Windows. Okay. So we'll work on this after your system reboots in the next about 5-10 minutes. Because on mine, it's about here. So it's loading the drives and installing files on the drive. Any question?
How far is that? Restart now, right? I have a 13-year-old and 7-year-old. My extended. I know he like goes here. Leaving me on now. That's where his mom and I were there. Before that, wants to try something. And he says, "Hi." Oh, yeah, for sure. He's like further everything. You would think he did that. Again, as long as she's on his phone, he don't care.
Okay, are we able to reboot? So what I recommend is take your ISO, put it on this device. Sign up in the box. Or, I'm sorry. Restart the box. Question?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's LS.
Well, that's what the first time.
Yeah, you didn't do so the last step. Yeah, it doesn't have any errors. Yeah, so if you have once it's done, restart. Yes. It was enough hardware. All right. Sorry. Trying to troubleshoot. Restart. And then open up terminal. So once we restart, we're gonna log in. So if it says things like this, that's okay. In a regular system, we want to remove our USB or DVD or whatever you used to install, right? You just unplug it and then press enter to reboot. But on the virtual machine, it's just gonna do its thing because we mount the ISO, that's what it shows here. And then it's gonna take a few minutes and just like what we've seen with the other virtual machine, control down arrow key release your capture of your cursor. And then you can click it back in order to access it. Okay. So we're gonna do part C. Pay attention to your typing, right? And I will explain each of the command as we go. We're going to use some of the Linux command that's very useful. So this is mostly just be able to access some of the general information and then also create files. I have one that's already been logged in. Okay, click on show apps, search for terminal. and then click terminal to open. You can zoom in and out using the option up here. So first, what we're gonna do is we're gonna do a uname-a, right? This allows you to show the kernel. Linux have kernel that you install when you go through the process earlier in the last 15 minutes or so. And all this is just gonna be for drive management and memory allocation for the operating system. Okay, so coming back here, let me minimize this so that way I can show you the command and that in one screen capture. So we're gonna do a uname-a. And it tells me that this is a Linux kernel for my machine, right? And then the version. So why is this important? If you need to find information about a certain type of OS kernel, right? For Debian Linux, you are going to use uname-a, okay? So it tells me the version and the type, and we know that this is GNU Linux, okay? After 22, we're going to go ahead and take a screen capture of this so you can use snippet or print screen and then paste it underneath 23. Then what we're going to do is we are going to create boot log file. This is important mostly in security. We do a lot of things with our log files. So in the case if you need to check boot log for troubleshooting reasons, you're going to use the next command. Okay, so you're going to do dm-esg, and this is going to give us, if you're getting an error like this, so it shows my log file as a regular account, but if you don't have access, if it's telling you permission or privilege error, then you would do a sudo. Okay, this is a good way to kind of find an error. So if you do a dm-esg command, what you see is it's showing you all the boot information on what it checked. When Linux boot, you notice that it's going through the process and it's telling you the status. Okay, not okay, failed, right? Success, all of that. So what it's doing is telling you that it's checking all, your connections, all your loop, your VirtualBox, your input, all of these things, including security that happens. So all of this is your log information, okay? So now we need to take that and we're gonna put it into a .log file. So when you work with Linux, you're gonna see that we would use .log file. That's gonna contain all our log information, okay? So let's do sudo, stands for super user do, as we are on a regular account, and you're gonna do emsg. The arrow basically point to the type of file that you're gonna create. So if I wanted to name something here, that's the name that I'm gonna use. So for this, we're gonna do a dm-esg.log, okay? And we are at step 24. So because we're using sudo, it's gonna ask for the password that you have created. Just type, okay? It's not gonna blink the cursor. We're just gonna type and make sure that it takes. If you type wrong, it's gonna prompt you again, type the right password. Type until it's correct, okay? Yeah, Linux is not gonna, it's not gonna change the cursor. It's not gonna move in terminal. So just make sure that you type, okay? Don't pay attention to the cursor, just type the correct one. We're so used to Windows that it moved the cursor that sometimes we forget, okay? So we're gonna enter the password that we had created from the prior step. Now, we already took all of this log information and we put it into a .log file. So in the future, if you need to create a boot log file, for example, I'm troubleshooting malware for my Linux system, I can create a log file and so I can see, or in the case that, you have something that's impacting your boot, you can go in and you can create a .log file, right? By using this. So basically I'm taking the information from the kernel and I put it into a .log file like this. So once that's done, I need to read it. Okay. So what I want to do is I want to filter it using grep. So a way that we can do this is we can read the file, and when you use pipe, I think I mentioned this to my class yesterday, and if you're not in that class, right, we talk about command. So when you're using pipe in command line, you're able to combine two commands into one line. That's going to help you. Instead of typing individual command, we can do it all in one execution. So we are going to do a cat dmesg.log. That's the file that we created just now. And we're going to do a pipe. So that's going to be a shift. And it's the key above your enter key is your pipe. Okay. And then we're going to grep error. So what we're doing is we're using a cat, and cat stands for concatenation. So we're going to read that file and we're going to filter out error. Okay. Now, if you don't have any error, it's going to throw an error. Right? But if in the case I have an error, it's going to highlight it. So grep is very useful if you want to filter out content. So on a desktop system, you might only have maybe 50 entries in your log. But on a server system, let's say a lot of web servers are Linux servers because they're free. If you see Apache, that's a Linux product, right? So Apache runs on Linux OS. So in that case, you might have thousands of entries for your boot log. So we want to do a grep, and then whatever the keyword or the string that you want to filter, you're going to put that there. Okay. So we're going to grep, and in my case, I have one error. You might not have an error, so it's going to throw an error saying that it cannot find what you're trying to filter. Okay. So every system is a little different. Read what the pop-up is showing in your command line. And then, so it tells me that it's trying to remount one of my, see, this is the file system, right? And the option error remount, it's not able to do that. So it has an error. So as a system admin, I need to find out like how I can fix that error, because that might impact my system performance, right? Or my system's health for the long run. Yeah. Enter your password. Yeah, just type. Don't pay attention to the cursor. And then press enter. And if it's wrong, you can type it. Press enter. If it's wrong, then type your password. Don't pay attention to the cursor. Just type your password. There you go. Yeah, whatever password that you created earlier, and I'm sorry I cannot help you retrieve your password, so you can possibly reset your password in your account. But what password you used to create the login earlier, how you logged in?
Yeah.
Your name, and then whatever password you used to log in.
The password I know is asking.
Yeah, then, so that's fine. So what step are you doing? Are you here? Okay, so redo that step, or yeah, so redo that step for the sudo, and then type in the correct password. So up arrow key. until, so that's the one, right? Okay, type in your password for your account. What's your question?
Okay, so I did this today and then I
Yeah, so it's, operation is not permitted. I put in my password. So when it did the grep error here, see how it doesn't have a pop-up? That just means you don't have any error.
Oh, mine too, then.
Yeah.
I don't have an error.
If you have an error, it would show an error. So
if you have
basically,
no
you,
error.
if you filter something that doesn't exist, it doesn't pop it up.
So on your questionnaire, like,
I don't have an arrow, so I'm looking.
Yeah, so you created a log there and then do the next step. So you need to read it. So do this command, cat. Other questions? Yeah, proceed. Install them. And then make,
You guys getting? They say girls can help, they don't like that. That's right.
really good job. Is a screenshot the first thing?
you should keep it all the same at the beginning. If you do it. Right.
Yeah, I do have it up on. So I've used that.
So you don't have an error. No error, so that's why it didn't pop up. Yeah, if you have an error, it will show. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, you don't want an error.
It's so sensitive. He submitted it yet. I see her. He's like, "It's a mistake." He's like, right here. That's not a mistake. And we did space on both ends. Try to run this. You do. It's good. In a way, I don't put on this space.
Oh, I think.
That's a screenshot.
So it's just like this, like that. And it's very much, yeah.
No, so let's, name it when we start. Yeah. Yeah, so I think with the default, maybe.
I used to put a space. Oh.
No search file. So go through the link to install. And then on the disk, we can remove. Not for the disk part.
All right. Sorry. Next, what we're gonna do is we are going to, sorry, let's log back in. So on the next one, what we're gonna do, so we already